Today, we are joined by a 7-time Emmy Award-winning TV host, news anchor, sports anchor, WWE presenter, and commentator who can be seen regularly on programs such as This Week in WWE, Raw Talk, The SmackDown Lowdown, and a bundle of others. Scott Stanford, sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, good afternoon, my friend. What's going on? It's too bad you can't see us here because I'm so well dressed for this program because I heard you guys have a dress code. So I wore a nice sport jacket and a pocket hanky, but since it's audio only, it's fine.
Well, they'll be able to see you, thankfully. They'll have you
they
pinned
can
up
see
on
me?
YouTube. Yep, they'll have you.
Oh, that's great.
They see you. And, honestly, that's the main reason why I'm not on camera is because of the dress code. I got to make sure that the guest looks better than the presenter,
Ah, yes, indeed. Well, I actually just came from WWE headquarters, so you caught me with my on-camera attire, so it worked out well.
That's perfect. And, as you have guessed, Armbars and Sidebars is about professional wrestling, but we'll talk a little bit about your journey and everything you do outside of wrestling too. But before we do, I like to hit plugs in the beginning and then at the end. So where can people find you? What do you want people to check out?
People, of course, WWE wise, they could find me on This Week in WWE, Bottom Line, Afterburn, Raw, SmackDown, post shows, all over the place pretty much. And also, of course, the Suki and Scott Show, which is a show that I do with my partner Suki here in New York, and it's all celebrities and performers, and it's the hottest show on broadcast and digital. And you could check us out. I mean, we do our live show on Facebook, and then it goes all over the world to all different various platforms. But it's a Suki and Scott Show, and we're 380 shows in. And somewhere along the line, we must have spoken to one of your favorite actors, actresses, and performers along the way. So check it out. It's Suki and Scott Show. Suki and Scott Show.tv. There you go.
Super cool. And we will have links in the description to all your social media so people can easily follow it. Go there, follow, subscribe, whatever the terminology may be for the specific website. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Now, I do want to jump into wrestling, but just before we get there, wrestling fans obviously know you primarily for your work in WWE, but you've been working in news, and that's a sports anchor for probably decades now. Did you always plan on getting involved in news and entertainment and all that? How did your journey? Can you talk a little bit about your background, how that journey began?
Well, you know what, Ken? As a kid, I always wanted to be a game show host. That's what I wanted to be.
Really?
I'm still trying to be a game show host. if you look at me, I look like a game show host, don't I?
I see it.
You see it, right? I always wanted to be a game show host or the guy that says, well, Johnny, you and a guest will be flying round trip. I wanted to be the announcer on a game show. But anyway, I was always, even as a kid, I walked around my house with a microphone, whether it was doing game show stuff or pretending I was Mean Gene Okerlund from WWE. I always wanted to be a broadcaster, and that's what I knew what I wanted to be from the time, high school to college. I always, I hosted, talent shows and live shows, and in college, I joined the radio stations and the TV stations, and it was always something I knew I wanted to do, and I was laser focused on it. One thing leads to another, and you end up in various places where you don't think you'd ever be. But sure enough, that's where I ended up as a sports guy, a news guy, living out my dream here in WWE. So, it all worked out for the way I wanted it, but I've never hosted that game show. And I got to do it. I pitch WWE on game shows all the time. And I'm ready to roll, man. If you could help me out, Ken, let me know, man. I got to be a game show host one of these days.
We're definitely gonna have to send that beacon out, get a little groundswell going, because honestly, you would be perfect for it. So, just the way you present, I could totally see it.
I have an idea. I want to do a WWE game show called a Holy Matrimony, where it's a game show where all the married couples in WWE, almost like you might be too young, but it's almost like the old Newlywed Game.
Yep.
Where the wife has to answer questions about the husband, and the husband comes in and has to see if he can match up the same answers. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if we had Miz and Maurice and Edge and Beth Phoenix and Montez and Bianca Belair and people like that. You have them on a game show, and you got a lot of trash talk, maybe use some physicality too. But I think that would be something fun that the WWE universe would love. So I'm still trying to pitch it, man. And again, it's all very self-centered. It gets me to host a game show. So
yeah, but it would definitely be entertaining, and obviously with WWE Network and Peacock and all the various,
absolutely
huge YouTube platform, excuse me. And there's plenty of places where that would be perfect.
Yeah, I thought Valentine's Day would be a good day to break it out, but I'm still working on it. And now you have so many married couples in WWE: Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, Corey and Carmella,
Johnny and Candace. There's so
Johnny
many.
and Candace. I mean, we could certainly have some great game shows with those folks, and it writes itself. But I'm going to keep pitching. Persistence is the way to go, and I'll keep pitching it until somebody hears me, and we'll put it on. It'll be great. But you'll be the first. You could say you heard about it first right here.
We've got the scoop right here on Armbars and Sidebars. Thank you so much. But seriously, I hope that does happen. Now, I want to know, deep dive back into your history.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a fan of professional wrestling growing up, and when did you first learn of professional wrestling?
Listen, like I said, I used to run around my house pretending I was Mean Gene Okerlund. My brother was in the video business, got one of those first video camcorders, and I used to play Mean Gene. We'd set it up, and he would walk in on a box, and he would pretend he was this guy. Oh my God, I forgot we even called him. Bigger than Andre the Giant. And I would pretend I was Mean Gene, and we'd stand in front of like an old Bruno Sammartino poster, and I'd be Starman, that's what his name. And I still have the video, Starman. And I would say, all right, this Monday night, Madison Square Garden, Ted DiBiase going up against my next guest, the Starman, come on in. And my brother would walk in on these platforms, and he'd be like 8 feet tall, and I'd be looking up at him like Mean Gene would with Andre. But yeah, I watched WWE, of course, WWF back in the day. When I was a kid, on Saturday mornings, it would be on the Spanish TV stations here. And it was just fantastic. And, just to see how much it's grown into this multi-billion-dollar, this juggernaut. It's just, it's a testament to what a genius Vince McMahon is. And what he's done with this company, and you look at where it is now on Fox and USA, and the WrestleManias, and it's just, I mean, what can you say? It's an entertainment conglomerate that has come from those little Saturday morning TV shows on Spanish TV to what it is today, a multi-billion-dollar operation.
That's really cool that you were such a big fan in your youth, and for you to go on and work there later on. And we'll get into that momentarily. But did you ever have any intentions of getting involved? Like when you were younger, is that something you actually planned on, or is it something that came later on? And if you did plan on it, did you ever see yourself on the wrestling end of it?
Me? No, I was never like, listen, I could have been one of those, backstage interviewers that got thrown around once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never, I've never been that, built guy who wanted to be a wrestler. I always wanted to be a broadcaster. But it just came around by chance for me. Long story, very short. I was the sports anchor at a station here in New York called UPN 9. And it had to be about the mid 2000s when WWE's Friday Night SmackDown, I think, went from, I want to say, Spike TV to the UPN network, right? So it was Friday Night SmackDown on UPN across the country. And because I was the New York guy at the New York affiliate, they wanted me to do all of the WWE segments, the pieces, the features that would air on all the newscasts that would come on at 10 o'clock after Friday Night SmackDown. So SmackDown would come on from 8 to 10 on Friday night. And there in the news during SmackDown, they would have something to promote to keep that wrestling audience watching the news, right? So a commercial would come on during Friday Night SmackDown. Coming up after SmackDown on the 10 o'clock news, you'll never believe what Hulk Hogan used to do to get ready for his matches, and they'd give you a nice little tease. And I would, as the sports guy here in New York, one of the things I would do aside from regular sports is I would have a WWE feature piece that would air in the news across the country on those UPN stations. So they would have something to tease, to hold. You want to hold the audience from 8 to 10. You want to hold them for the 10 o'clock news. So they would always have a featured WWE piece, whether it was the Bella Twins or the Miz or whoever it was back then, the Big Show. I was the guy who would go to the WWE events and I would interview like 10. They would give me superstars all night long, and we would just interview. And I'd have all the stuff done for, all these different packages or segments, if you will.
So that's really smart, because I know pro wrestling, rightly or wrongly, has kind of a reputation of, if it's on a channel, people will tune in for that show. The wrestling fans will always go in for it, but they won't necessarily stick around for other programming after, because they're there for the wrestling. So by teasing wrestling being involved in the news, it's very smart. That's a smart way of doing it.
Absolutely. And I thought it was a good idea when SmackDown went to Fox. I thought for sure someone would do that, where, on Fox, because the 10 o'clock news comes on after SmackDown on Friday nights on Fox News, all the stations. So you throw in a little tease there, because it is a different audience. It's a different audience watching from 8 to 10 than is going to stick around and watch the news and just stay there. Mm-hmm. But if you give them a little tidbit of something in the show to stick around for, they may stick around and watch your local news, because they're going to see a feature piece. But anyway, so regardless, that's what I was doing aside from my sports anchoring at UPN 9. And, one thing led to another. They were looking for a new host to do the studio shows. And I got a call from the PR director, and he said, "Hey man, we're looking for a new host." And it almost seemed like I worked for WWE at the time anyway, because I was interviewing all their people. When SmackDown kicked off on UPN, I flew out to Green Bay. That was the first show. And I interviewed Vince backstage and did all these things. So it was really kind of like I was already working for the company. And when it came time to look for a new, like I said, I got a call. I put a little demo together with all my interviews with John Cena and CM Punk back at the time. And I sent in my little demo. And then I got a call and they said, "Hey, Vince just looked at, like 40 different tapes. He hated everybody." So I pulled out yours, and immediately he said, "Hey, get this guy in here." And I got the gig, and that's been 14 years. Back in 2009, I started, and it's been a fantastic ride ever since. I've pretty much gotten to do everything for the company, from, ringside commentating on WWE superstars, to backstage interviewing, to pre-shows and post-shows and everything else in between. So it's been absolutely fantastic.
No, definitely. It's been an incredible run. And just when you put it into perspective that it's been that long, it's crazy. I'd like to dive a little more into the hiring process, though, because that's something that's so curious to me and for so many people, because again, you mentioned that you already kind of had an affiliation there, mm-hmm. just by going there, doing interviews. People knew you, people recognized you, and that probably certainly helped matters. Who did you work with while being hired? Like, for example, I know later on in later years, Tom Phillips oftentimes was part of the hiring process for new commentators and presenters.
Yeah, and I taught Tom everything he knows.
Gonna make sure we put that in a little preview.
He'll tell you that. He'll tell you. I taught him everything he knows, and Tom turned into a fantastic broadcaster.
Oh, he's great.
Renee, I taught Renee everything she knows. Came through the studio. Renee, when Renee first started, she came through our studios, and she and I hosted many shows together, and we had a fantastic chemistry together. And she was fantastic, and she moved up. and the story, Renee, first woman to ever be at the commentary table,
which is great. How cool is that?
Yeah, which is great. And now she's she's married to Moxley and doing other things. But I've seen a lot of people come and go. And the trick is just to show up every day and do the best work that you can, and be easy to work with. And that's the three main ingredients, right? Show up, easy to work with, and do the best work that you can. And hopefully you get to stick around for as long as I have. And listen, if I could stick around another 14 years, I'd love it, because every day I go in there to WWE, it's almost I treat it like it's my first day every time. And every show I do, whether big or small, regardless of where it's going to air, as I'm shooting it, it's the most important show I'm shooting at that particular time.
I love that mindset. And you're such a professional, but I also know how busy you are. You're doing so much work all the time. I'm curious about your schedule with WWE, how that looks, because I know sometimes you have to fill in for Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown when Jackie Redmond isn't available or Matt Camp isn't available. So what does your schedule generally look like with WWE? Like, are you on call oftentimes? Do you have a rigid schedule? How does that work?
Well, by the way, taught Matt and Jackie everything they know. I don't want to brag. Everybody,
fantastic job.
Anyone who's come through, I taught them everything. I have 2 set days that I go to WWE that I don't think I've missed those days in 14 years. When you talk about showing up every day. So I go on my vacations from Tuesday night to Sunday. I never miss. So what I do is I go in on a Monday morning, and when things change with Friday Night SmackDown, so SmackDown airs on a Friday night. I go in on Monday. I do a show called Afterburn, which is aired in 47 different countries, and that's the recap show for Friday Night SmackDown. I also do commercials that air during Raw and SmackDown that air in Canada, that I've been doing for a long time, telling the folks in Canada what events are coming up. So, for example, today I just did 3 different commercials talking about WrestleMania coming up on the WWE Network and talking about SmackDown on its way to Toronto. And you give out the dates, and they see those commercials 8,000 times a week. So some people hate me, some love me at this point. But it's fantastic. And then on Tuesdays, I go back in because Raw aired on Monday night. So now I go back in on Tuesday to do WWE Bottom Line, which is the recap show for Raw. And I also do This Week in WWE, which is the recap show for everything. And everything in between. The week of a pay-per-view show, that Tuesday, I'll do the All Access show, which airs on all the cable and satellite systems, which is a preview show, telling people that they could buy the program and who's coming up and what time and so on and so forth. And the other stuff, if Matt or Jackie can't make it for, Raw Talk or the SmackDown Lowdown, I'm the first person they call to show up, whether it's an hour before the show, a day before the show. If there's a snowstorm and Jackie can't make it or Matt can't make it, I'm the guy who will ultimately get there with his reindeer and sled, and will always be there. It's like every time I show up, I say Stanford Insurance Company is on the job. I'm the insurance guy. So when things when some people can't make it, I'm the guy who shows up and gets it done.
That's fantastic. I'm guessing you live at least fairly close. That way you can get there short notice if need be.
Yeah, I'm about 40 minutes from WWE headquarters, which I think I'm the closest as far as on-air talent to WWE headquarters. So it's and again, I'm one of those people that I hate to let anybody down. I hate to give up an opportunity to come do the shows. So like I said, it's been 14 years of reliability and loyalty, I guess you could say, which is something that they take very seriously. And anytime I'm working, it's listen, what we do, we're not curing any diseases, so it's fun, and we goof around, we have fun, and but like I said, the people who work on the shows that I do, how no matter how big or how small, those shows are most important to the people working on them, right? So somebody took the time to write the show, to grab all the footage of the show. So you want to make it where it's as you're shooting, no show is a throwaway show. Each show while you're shooting it is the most important show that you're shooting at that time, and the producers will really appreciate your effort, and their effort, that you appreciate the effort that they put into it. Where, like I said, nothing is this show isn't going to air. Anyway, every show is important to the people who put it together, and every show takes a lot of time to do. I'm the guy who's lucky enough, I get to just show up and bring the show to life, if you will. And if I see something in the show that might be an error, or something that might sound better another way, I offer up my opinion. If they'd like to switch it, they do. If not, we do it the way it's written. But it's all very, like I said, it's just, what are we doing, right? We're just having fun. We're putting out shows, and people enjoy what we do. And as an on-air broadcaster, if you are having fun with what you're doing, the audience will also have fun with what you're doing and enjoy the product as well.
I really like that mindset, because everybody's time is valuable. So for you treating it as such, and you treating every project as being important, it makes everybody feel validated, which
absolutely,
I think is very cool.
absolutely.
And I can testify, that you came on and we chatted for a few minutes before we got going, and you gave me a little advice, which I very much appreciate. So it just goes to show, what a hard worker and what a good guy you are. I wanted to go back. You mentioned doing commentary, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And October 2010, I believe, is when you began to do play-by-play commentary for WWE Superstars.
Sounds about right.
So I have a whole bunch of notes. But when you did that, was that something that you thought was going to be a possibility heading in, or did that come later? And what was that schedule like? Because that happened, I believe, Tuesday, or no, or was that taped Monday? I can't remember.
That was well, the funny thing was, it wasn't that long since, I came to WWE in 2009. So by 2010, I was at my other job at the time, as a weekend sports anchor at NBC here in New York. And I never forgot sitting there on a Saturday night. I get a call from, one of the managers at WWE. Hey, can you get to Wichita, Kansas on Monday? I said, for what? He said, I don't know yet, but we'll take care of the plane ticket, of course. You just need to be in Wichita by Monday for Raw. And
had you done travel much with them at this point, or were you mostly
that was the first time, very first time. So on Monday, I get on a plane from New York to Wichita, Kansas. I get my rental car. I'm traveling to the arena, and I'm like, boy, Kansas is beautiful. I was looking for Dorothy. She wasn't anywhere to be found, but I was on my way to the arena, and I called my manager and I said, hey, any idea what I'm doing here? He said, no, not yet. I'll let you know later. So at around 7:00, an hour before Raw would go on the air, we would shoot WWE Superstars, which would air on WGN America, I think on Saturdays at the time. So it was just, random matches. It was a way to fill, content for WGN. It was a way to entertain the audience that was at the arena at the time. So it's about 6:00 at night. I still don't know what I'm doing. At about 5 after 6, I get a call from my guy. He says, put your tie on. You're doing Superstars tonight. And I was like, I'm sorry, come again? He says, Michael Cole's not doing Superstars anymore. You're going out with Jerry the King Lawler. You're going to do Superstars. And I was like, holy, are you kidding me? Right. So I got my tie on. I found out who was wrestling that night. And I went and grabbed, as many notes as I could possibly grab at the time.
And this was your first experience doing wrestling commentary in any form?
In any shape or form.
Wow.
I always practiced as knowing I could do it. But, until they call your name and the music starts playing and you're walking out with Jerry the King Lawler, things are a little different, right? So I got out there and I did I don't remember who the first matches were, but I know my guy Zack Ryder was always on at the time, and Mark Henry and even the Usos back at the time, right? Those guys were on. But
They're crushing it today.
Yeah, oh my God. I sat next to the King and I did this. I think it's 2 matches. You do a couple of intros, a couple of graphics, and you get the heck out before Raw starts. And then for I think it was about 2 years, I just kept doing it. So, my life changed where I was traveling every Monday and Tuesday to different cities all over the country. Whether it's 5 hours to California, 2 hours to, the middle of the country, or I would drive to a Boston or whatever it may be, you're still doing the same work, right? It's still the same exact work and the same exact time put in as whether you travel 5 hours, 7 hours, or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And as I was doing Superstars, now you're there, you're backstage. Hey, let's have Scott do an interview. Let's have Scott do this. Let's have Scott do that. So I started to appear on Raw and SmackDown, and I'm interviewing superstars. Some of it's pre-taped, some of it's live, and it was so much fun. It was just fantastic. And and as I'm there, I get to see how they're making the magic backstage and how it's all being put together. And then you just become part of the system. So every day I would show up, every week. Okay, what are my matches for Superstars? Let's get prepared. And then you look at the script, how they would prepare for Raw and what the matches would be. And then you look for your name. You go through, Scott interviews The Miz backstage, or Scott interviews Randy Orton. And it was just, it was fantastic, man. It's a great rush. It's the rush that comes over you just from being in front of that audience is unbelievable. And I think that lasted about 2 years, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, and I got to do some great things. And then I took a full-time job here in New York at Pix 11 as their evening news anchor. So we came off the road, and I continued to do the Mondays and Tuesdays. And then the Raw and SmackDown pre-shows came along, which were fantastic. With Booker and the King and Corey
Graves, yeah.
And that's where Corey kind of got his feet under him, being on that show. So I taught Corey everything he knows, by the way.
Basically everybody,
everybody you see on the air, except I've taught them all how to do it. But no, it was great. And at one point, I was the morning news anchor on Pix 11, getting up at 2:00 in the morning for a 4 or 5 o'clock airtime. So I would do my shows on Monday in the afternoon. I would go home, take a nap, come back, do the Raw pre-show, get out of there at 8 o'clock when Raw started, get home and get up at 2:00 in the morning. So on Mondays and Tuesdays, it was a little crazy.
Wow.
But the work it's not work to me. It was just fun, so the hardest part is getting to where you need to be. But to do the work, again, it's like, it's a rush. That was my drug of choice, and it still is, being on the air and hosting and doing shows, because none of it ever feels like work.
Out of curiosity, if the opportunity ever came again, and again, you're so busy, the schedule might not work for you, but if doing commentary again came up as an option, if they needed you for a new show on the network or on this that, is that something that you consider going back into?
Absolutely. When I watch the shows now, I'll actually turn off the sound and I'll pretend to do the commentary, just because the thing with what we do is, right, that's why they know and they know they can call me for anything and I'm ready to roll. If something happened to where not necessarily the analyst, right? I'm not a Corey Graves. I'm more of a play-by-play, set the guy up, throw it to them, let them take it, you come back. But if a Kevin Patrick couldn't do it, or Michael Cole, who I think is the best to ever do it, along with JR, If those guys were ever unavailable and they called me on a moment's notice, I can go and do it in 2 seconds. And then you might say, hey, how come this guy hasn't been doing this for the last 10 years? you know, but it's all, listen, this whole business is all about luck and opportunity and timing. Luck, opportunity, and timing. And if you have a little bit of luck on your side and you have a little bit of timing, that's when things fall into place. And as long as you're in the game, anything can happen, right? And that's why I've always loved my time at the studio. And again, my immediate bosses know they can call me to fill in for anybody, and we'll make it sing, and it'll be seamless and a turnkey operation. So if they know they can count on you, you're always in good standing and ready to go.
No, absolutely. And I know with your busy schedule, we're running a bit short on time. I'm just going to throw out a few quick, short questions and get you out of here. Hit the plugs because I know you're a busy guy.
Go ahead, my friend.
One of the questions I wanted to ask, and this one is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's very important to you too. A very serious topic. When is Matt Camp going to get you on the bump?
Listen, Matt Camp, he and I mean, listen, Matt weighs 110 pounds soaking wet. So he's got a great sneaker game. But if he and I ever, if I ever had to take him out, I could. I may be twice his age at this point, but I could still take him out. And if he doesn't get me on the bump soon, I was on the bump recently as an announcer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember hearing that. There was showing you on the screen briefly.
They finally came to their senses. They were doing this bump Olympics. So, who do you call? You call Scotty Boy to do the announcing. You needed some comic timing, some comedic relief in the show. You call me. But as far as being a guest on the bump or a guest host of the bump, listen, those guys, Kenny, if you could do something to get me on there, they don't know what they're missing. I think the problem is, with Matt and Kayla is once I get in there, then jobs are at stake. Right? Jobs are at stake. People
are threatened by you.
Everybody's threatened by me. Listen, the main thing in broadcasting is you never want to have somebody fill in for you because it's such a subjective world. The people above you, hey, we like this guy or girl better. Do we really still need this person? Because in this day and age, people change at the drop of a hat, right? And there's so many jobs available and so many people looking to take those jobs. I figure if I just keep showing up and never miss, nobody could ever take my gig, right? But that's my advice to broadcasters: never miss. Never let anybody fill in for you.
It's very smart. So let's get you on the bump. Let's get you that game show.
Yeah, dude, we got to get on the bump. And I've even thrown out, let's go on the bump and do a game show.
There you go.
But no, like I said, it's so much fun, and all the shows we do are great. And listen, Kayla and Matt are great on that show. They've been there from the beginning.
Fantastic.
Just terrific. And again, like I said, what do we really do? Nothing of importance. It's just, entertainment and fun. WWE is just, I always tell people who take it so seriously and what goes on, it's a TV show. And like any other TV show that you're addicted to, like, I always loved Ray Donovan and Breaking Bad. And, not every show is fantastic. Not every show is terrible, and not every show is gold. But you know what? They are in there, and they do go. But look at what those guys have to do for creative, right? You're talking about 3 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on Friday, so that's about 7 hours of programming every week. Every week of live programming. And other than and this is live programming, so I was going to say other than soap operas, but soap operas are recorded 3 weeks in advance of when they air. So Triple H and everybody behind the scenes, everybody in creative, it's not easy. And these guys come and again, it's just like any other TV show. Sometimes they go, that episode wasn't great, let me watch the next one. Or wow, man, that was, I mean, there have been Ray Donovans that I've watched where I was like blown away. And then the next one that comes on, I'm like, that wasn't as good as the last time. Or Blacklist, right? Where there's 8 million episodes. And I would tell my wife, man, you got to watch this Blacklist. I was just blown away by that episode. And the next one comes on. You're like, all right, well, they didn't live up to the last one. And that's the way it is with WWE or any other entertainment program. But you do know you're always going to get your money's worth regardless, right?
I think that's part of the excitement too, and the allure is like there's always next week, there's always the next show.
Absolutely.
You never know who's going to step up, who's going to be there, what's going to go down. It's an exciting part of it. Right before I let you go, you mentioned the name earlier, Zack Ryder. I know you did Z True Long Island Story. I would have loved to dove into that a little more, but I
taught Matt everything he knows. Everything. No, you know what? We've got about 5 minutes, but I'll tell you, doing the Z True Long Islands with Zach back in the day, Matt Cardona. Those were the days that I would go shoot superstars, and while we'd be in the back creating content for his YouTube show. And I'll tell you, man, I think that's what got me, quote unquote, over a lot with the WWE fans was doing Matt's show. Because we did some funny things, goofy things, everything that went with, bro and, all this other, I remember doing like different skits, broski in a bottle and, Zack Ryder's bro nuts. And just all kinds of great fun stuff that the audience just loved, and give him all the credit in the world. He was doing it, I think, really before most people were getting it done on YouTube. I remember he would get like 200,000-300,000 views a week. And my Twitter account, I didn't even know I had a Twitter account. I think he signed me up for it. It's got to be like 10, 12 years ago. And I saw I had like 40,000 followers at the time. And I was like, wow, this is all really from his show. But it was great. It gave us an opportunity to have some fun. We would always do with Dolph Ziggler and Eve Torres at the time and the Bella Twins. And Zach would get everybody involved, John Cena. And I was like his spokesperson. And it was really just, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And I always love going back, or people still post stuff. And it was just, like I said, it's all about having fun. The hardest part of the gig is just getting there and showing up. That's the hardest part. You just got to make sure you get there and get there on time and be fun to work with.
And you mentioned how, creative he is to be able to come up with all that. And, he's a guy who, after he left WWE, he reinvented himself. He's Matt Cardona, doing death matches, doing this, doing that, all over the place. There's always the speculation, and he loves to tease it online just to get people guessing. About him potentially returning to WWE, as Matt Cardona. Given your relationship with him and your experiences working with him, is that something you'd like to see? Would you like to see him back in WWE?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I know he's not. He just won another championship, World Series of World Series of
Australia,
Wrestling.
I think
Australia. He's all over the world. Listen, I don't know what kind of financial situation he's in. I'm sure he does very well. Love to see him back in WWE. I think if he comes back and they let him be who he is, he could certainly create bring a whole new audience of folks who are, into that independent scene back to WWE. But again, it's all, you never know, right? The doors are always open. You never know, what conversations happen, and if it's something that he wants to do. But he's Chelsea Green is there now. She's doing great work.
Perfect for your game show, there. If he does come back,
that's right. We could add 2 more people to the game show. He totally outkicked his coverage on that one. I mean, come on, Chelsea and Matt. But no, they are great couple. And listen, if it worked out where they wanted to bring him back and he wanted to come back, I think it's all about the great storylines, and he's terrific on the microphone. And I think it would be, it would only be a positive. It'd be a plus for WWE to have him back. But again, you never know, man. There's so much going on, and there's so much great talent. There's only so much you could jam into. You need another 6 hours if you wanted to bring all these people back. But no, he's a very talented guy, and I love what he's done outside on his own. And that's what they say these days. It's all about making your own way and make it so they can't ignore you. Which is a great quote. Somebody told me, "Make it so they can't ignore you," and they won't.
Cody's a great blueprint for that. Cody Rhodes, right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look what Cody did. He wasn't happy where he was. He left, started the whole AEW promotion, did some stuff with those other guys, and they were selling out arenas. And he decided, it was best for him to come back, and now he's one of the faces of the company.
Yeah.
Could be the universal undisputed champion after WrestleMania. You never know. But it's all about, when his music hits, the crowd goes nuts and everybody loves Cody. And he's in some great storylines right now. And his personal story, tugs at everybody's emotions and their heartstrings. And it's fantastic. And, when I sit back and watch the shows on Mondays and Fridays, and I watch it as a fan. And I just, I like to be surprised, and I watch everything as a fan. And like I said, the people online who take it so seriously and they knock this segment or that segment, they're not all going to be home runs. You got to get a couple doubles and triples in there. But overall, like we said, it's 7 hours a week, and they continue to do it. And I got to tell you, last couple of months, the Bloodline, Cody,
hotter than it's been in a long time.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. It's must watch. When those guys are on screen, you have to you got to stop. And when Paul Heyman's on screen, my favorite, when Paul's up there, you got to watch it. So it's the product is phenomenal. The company's doing great. There's a new building going in up there in Stanford, Connecticut. And it's never been better. And like I've been a fan since Bruno Sammartino and Chief Jay Strongbow, and the characters that keep coming through are sensational. And nobody does production quite like WWE. I could tell you that.
Absolutely. The last question before we hit plugs: what does the future look like for Scott Stanford?
Well, at this point, I could be dead any minute, but you never know.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, no, let's hope not. No, actually, I just had a great physical the other day. I'm in perfect health, Ken.
So you can train the future broadcasters in WWE.
Listen, you know what? I'm still I'm in my early 50s. I know I look like I'm 30, but it's cool.
I was gonna guess 25.
25, it's fine. I'm hungrier than ever, man. So the future for me is I keep pounding it out. Like I said, I show up every week, do my WWE duties. Whenever they need me, I'm there. Always ready to roll. I have other projects in and out, day projects. I host a lot of things for different people. And like I said, my partner Suki and I have the Suki and Scott Show, which is kind of like a mix of, Kelly and Ryan and all the talk shows you see. We just do it a lot better, Suki and I. And it's just really, it's all about that chemistry and relatability of two people sitting there and having fun with celebrities who come on. And it was a show we started literally 2 weeks before the pandemic, right? So so it started 2 weeks before the pandemic. Suki and I moved into our, we did the show. We were doing it 5 days a week from our homes. She in her home, me in my little man cave down here. And we knocked out show after show after show until people started to notice. And now we're on every streaming site you can imagine. We're on a couple of different broadcast platforms. And the show, we continue to take calls each and every day from broadcast executives. Because we made it so they couldn't ignore us. And, great guests. We book our own show. We produce our own show. And it's just an hour of just pure fun and escapism from all that crappy news you get all day. You want to show up with us and laugh and be goofballs. That's where you're going to find us. And it's just like I said, we don't cover any politics, any bad news. It's all just fun. We make fun of ourselves. We have fun with the celebrities. and we have amazing performers on, whether they're real well known or up and coming. There are so many talented people out there, Ken, like yourself,
Thank you.
who come on our show and they just blow us away. And it's really, it's phenomenal. And our audience is addicted to it, which is great. It's all mostly women, age 40 plus across the country, and they love it. And you could, we do it live on Facebook first, just for our audience there. And then we send it around to all the streaming sites. So it's been fantastic. And it turned into this snowball downhill that just grew and grew. And it's, who knows what tomorrow brings. But for right now, we just keep putting out the content, and you just keep plugging along, man. So they can't ignore you, and eventually they won't.
So keep doing that. Another decade in WWE, hopefully, will be, in your future. One more time, where can people check you out? What are the socials?
Well, our Suki and Scott show we're on Instagram, Suki and Scott. We're on Facebook Live, Suki and Scott Show. I'm at Scott Stanford 1. On Instagram and Twitter. And like I said, it's all just, you never see any serious posts from me. It's all about fun. Cause those social media could become a trash bin.
Yeah. It can be toxic.
Yeah. It could be toxic. And by the time you're done scrolling through, you just want to crack your head against the wall. But it's, I'm there for the fun dogs and the animals and the, all the good stuff. So, anything I put up are funny remarks, funny comments, funny videos. And it's just, to me, it's all about just making people smile, because there's certainly enough to be down about these days. And, we're only here for a short period of time, Kenny. So you got to laugh and smile as much as possible and have fun. And that's why the broadcasting business is great. Because if you can get some gigs, it certainly is a lot of fun to do. And like I said, nobody's life depends on what we do. It's just all about having fun. And if you get paid while you're doing it, even better.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, guys, we will have links to all of his socials in the description. We'll have a graphic at the end of the video. Be sure to follow, subscribe, watch the show, everything like that. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Armbars Sidebar, us on Instagram at Armbars and Sidebars, and subscribe to us on YouTube at Armbars and Sidebars. We are growing them slowly but surely. We are growing and working on interviewing more great wrestling personalities. Scott, thank you so much for giving the extra time. You were a delight. I'm so glad we got to do this. You were fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenny. And listen, any other wrestling related folks that you have on, whoever comes through, just say Scott Stanford told us he's responsible for teaching you everything you know, and see what they say.
I'm going to have to do that. Even if they've never even met you before, I'm just going to throw that in.
Hey, Scott Stanford told us he taught you everything you know. Is that true? See what they say.
It's worth it. Thank you so much. And guys, again, subscribe, check out everything Scott's doing. Thank you so much for watching Armbars and Sidebars episode 11. Until next time, later.
Thank you, Kenny.